It's back. That's right. It's Kerbal Space Program. Or rather, it's not really Kerbal Space Program. It's Realistic Progression 1, i.e. everything is a lot more realistic. The only thing more realistic I think you can get with this is using a mod called Principia, that of Newton fame. Principia adds end-body physics, and that becomes even harder. If you really want me to try Principia, I will. I will torture myself for your benefit. But, however, the reason why I decided to do an episode of this was I was encountering a lot of bugs with the pre-release version. And that's hopefully now, a lot of them are now fixed. And we've got quite a bit to actually go through and try. So how do you actually get this installed? If you haven't already followed along previously, we're going to be starting a new game. So you can follow along with the release version. First of all, if you've got Kerbal Space Program on Steam, just go to Steam to the game properties, betas, and then you can see, or beta if you're American, you can see in all the previous versions. So you can backdate yourself, and the version you actually want is 1.3.1. And then you can take a copy of that because it will run independent of Steam, and then you won't have to deal with it. From that point onwards, you can get CCAN, which is the mod manager, and point it at that install, wherever it might be, including underneath Steam. And then all you need to do in CCAN is go to the long list of mods, all the way down to the bottom, and click on Realistic Progression 1. Now, it will ask you to install a bunch of other mods. Just go through it, accept them all. If you've got a beefy computer, go for the 8K textures. If you've got less, then maybe go for the 4K or 2K textures. But at some point, I had a problem installing custom barn kit. Now, if you don't have a problem, because it'll say, do you want to install the RO version, the Realism Overhaul version, and you click the yes. If you have a problem with it then coming up saying duplicate mod at some point, just go back to reinstalling it. But instead of choosing the Realism Overhaul version, choose the stock version. I promise it's weird, but it actually works and installs. So, with that in mind, if you've got any more questions on installing the stuff, put them in the comments below. I can more happy than to actually comment on that. However, we should start a game, and let's just start a new game, and let's just call it RP1 Release. Okay, this is V1.0.0, and it is a career, and we should choose NASA because why not? Is Roscosmos in here? I guess we could do a Russian playthrough at some point, but let's just go with NASA for now, and that will do. And then difficulty options, well, there's normal or hard. It says it's balanced around hard, I guess, so we should try hard. The only thing I will have to do because of the reverting flights and quick loading and stuff like that, mainly because I'm doing YouTube stuff. So if I need to record another section to make it more clear or something like that, I may have to go back and revert a flight or go to a previous save point to be able to re-record. Otherwise, I'd end up losing footage, and then you would be just not liking it. Anyway, just going with hard other than those options and clicking start. So we should head down to our tiny little Kerbal Space Center, or rather Realistic Space Center, I guess, and we're going to get some options that you do not get in the stock game. Okay, first options to go for, well, let's go for a few different things. Let's just move these windows, so there's a number of different things going on. First of all, yeah, Gene come, we can say that, in fact, will you let me click on you? No, I have to go through these other things first. Yeah, so the first thing you get is initial retirement date, and crew will basically retire if you don't employ them and send them off somewhere. And we've got 6 years to do it now. In the pre-release version, they all retired. I was just more interested in doing unmanned flight and getting probes out there. We didn't want to risk our Kerbals, so they all just retired and went off to the retirement home in the sky, upstate on a farm taken care of by farmers or something. Anyway, just click OK to that. KOS, basically, I want remote tech, I think. Yeah, let's just try that. And then we're down to remote tech, which should be presets, remote tech starting settings. I think that's all fine for us to just close. And then we can say goodbye to you. And then we're into the important stuff, Kerbal construction time. If you're not aware of Realistic Progression 1, Kerbal construction time means that you cannot just build a rocket and go. What you have to do is spend money, of course, and that money comes out over time. But also, you need to spend time So you have, or can have in the future, multiple launch pads. It's very dark at the moment. Let me actually just come up to the next morning, then you can see the launch pad. Usually we get slight visual glitches with realistic progression stuff because everything is so stretched out, because we're now Earth scale, not at Kerbin scale. And let me just speed that up again. So it gets light, actually light. Oh, this isn't too bad. Isn't too bad. In previous versions, we've had the runway sticking out into the air. We've had it below ground. We've had the sea coming in, covering the entire Kerbal Space Center. So being able to see it like this is not too bad. There is a bit of a glitch down there, it looks like. But other than that, I'm not too bothered. So Kerbal construction time. First of all, just choose a preset, and we're going to choose RP0. It's not been renamed to RP1 yet, etc. So we just need to choose that and press save. And then that's that setup now. We need to then spend some upgrades. And you have two different types. You have this VAB upgrades, rate 1 and rate 2. Basically, that's the rate of, well, you also have R&D over here as well. So this sort of depends on how much science per year. And the VAB is more like building rockets. So you've got to choose between them. Research rate basically affects, it's not just rockets that are affected by time. It's also all the other unlocks that you would normally get in the R&D center. They take time to actually to unlock, and you've got to basically invest in them. Similarly, the VAB, we haven't got anything just yet, so we've only got 1 point. So why don't we just actually spend it in the VAB? Rate 2 is later, I think. I think that's for the second launch pad. I could be wrong, though. If anyone knows any better, feel free. And you can buy funds. We've only got 19,000, however, so I'm not going to want to buy anything because I don't want to go into negative, or even if it'll let me. Fine, let's close that off, and you'll see we've got a build list up here on the right hand side. Basically, this is when we start to build rockets. They'll appear here, and you'll be able to roll them out as they actually complete. But for now, we can't really do all that much until we've chosen a mission, but also built something. So let's take a look at what missions we get given. And when you first load this up, it may take a short while to actually load everything. But we've just got to basically do a launch. Doesn't matter what. They don't really care all that much, and there's no deadline for this, so we can just get that going. Do we have any science? We do not. And if we have a look in research and development, what you'll see is an entirely different tech tree than you're used to. Yes, this tech tree is insane, I know. But a lot of this allows for, some of these nodes may well be empty. It's just that this allows for a lot of different stuff from lots of different mods that are compatible, or may be compatible in the future, with Realistic Progression 1. So from the start, we have a bunch of stuff we already own. Here we go. Starting parts has already been researched, although because I'm on hard, I guess I've got to purchase them, so I can't just get them by default. Oh. Okay, but there's a lot of useful parts in there that are actually very, very, very cheap, of course. It's got a lot of different engines. You can see the science in there as well. So, yeah, that will do. And we're going to get those probably just by grabbing them from the vehicle assembly building. So we should build something to get started. The one and only mod that I've installed, other than the ones either recommended or the ones that are part of Realistic Progression 1 or that are optional, those are actually all part of the automatic scan install. The only other mod I've installed is Editor Extensions Redux. That lets me select a lot more fine-grained angles down here rather than having the usual stock 6-way connector or 4-way connector. You have it goes from 1 all the way up to 12 and beyond. So you can have huge numbers of stuff attached are all around your rockets. And yes, we can get rid of this. And we've got Kerbal construction time in here as well. For now, I'm not going to worry about that. We are going to have to start with sounding rockets. So they won't be terribly hard to make. To make a good one, it's probably harder. But let me just actually change this and unlock the button. Oops, unlock the button itself, please. Can I unlock the position and size and move it? Yeah, I don't want it interfering with that at all. We can lock it again. So we can choose whatever we want here. A4 tends to be a large rocket. It is like the V2 from World War II, the German thing. It's just the American version. So we can avoid that, at least to start with. And start out with something either very, very cheap indeed. In fact, we can probably just buy all these. So we can just purchase that and purchase the avionics procedural. Bonanza cabins, so those are aircraft. We don't need to worry about them just yet. There's a starting guidance unit and a standing rocket telemetry unit. And then, of course, what isn't so much like Sputnik as that little drone from Star Wars that you shoot down. Yeah, but that's non-RP0. So I'm going to avoid stuff that says non-RP0 just because the costs won't be right. So we've got some choice, and we've also got mass. So you'll see the avionics first one is 1 ton. We're going to have to ignore that entirely. Same thing with the guidance unit. You're going to need something that is incredibly light. So either the sound and rocket telemetry unit will do it, or the Aerobee itself, or the Aerobee telemetry unit will do it as well. So let me just quickly check if there's any difference between them. And there really isn't all that much between them, apart from the fact that our Aerobee telemetry unit only uses 90 watts rather than 100 watts. So let's just actually build it using that. And we can always build another one later. But yeah, so we've got a tiny, and it really is tiny, little telemetry unit here that we can build around. Now, you can build using tanks like regular stock Kerbal, but very often in RP1 or even in Realism Overhaul, which is the sort of mod that RP1 is based on or built on top of, you tend to use procedural tanks because you can make your own tanks to any size you like, and it's great. You don't need to choose pre-existing tank sizes. However, for that A4 I was talking about, there are actual pre-built tanks, and in various other cases as well for various famous rockets. You see a lot of this as non-RP0. So I almost want a filter here to remove all the things that say non-RP0, but I'll leave them there for now. Just know that I'm just going to ignore anything that starts with that. And then there's the Oscar fuel tanks, etc. Again, that's all stock. But we're going to just purchase a regular tank, and don't think that that's the only thing by this icon. Each tank can have different types. So if you have it right-click, right now there's tank 1 or tank 1 high pressure. And I imagine it's high pressure we're going to need. So it's basically a pressurized tank. And that basically could be reformed into whatever size you like. Now, it would be nice if that told me the actual size of that telemetry unit, but let's just bring this down to size. And it should be around 350 or so, I imagine. 380 maybe. That looks, let's just zoom in a little bit closer. Is that close enough? Looks close enough to me. Yeah, so let's just assume 380 for now. And length, we won't worry about it just yet because we're going to attach an engine. So moving on to the engines. Aerobee is the first one that you'll probably come across, and we're going to find where it is, and a Tiny Tim booster. Yes, Tiny Tim is it's actually quite useful booster. But first of all, we need the engine itself. So there's a couple of different varieties that you can get as part of RP1. And I sort of, well, both of them are kind of cool, but that's the... Yeah, I think I should probably go for this Aerobee. It sort of looks nicer, or at least more realistic. This is kind of like an old model, I think, that's just like the generic model, but we'll see. So this can fit on the bottom, and you'll see it does actually fit. Whoops, it does actually fit there quite well. It's got a shroud over it. Let's disable the shroud. So ignition is remaining 1. Propellant feed pressure too low. Okay, so we need that to basically say feed pressure okay. And if you don't have that, then this won't be able to ignite, and this booster is going to be underneath it. So you want to be able to choose what you have here. So we can now choose at the bottom of this dialog for the tank what we want in here. So it will show you whatever is compatible with the engine you attach. So attach an engine first, then choose your fuel, and you'll now see that Kerbal Engineer Redux is telling me exactly what this will do. So it has a thrust to weight ratio of 3, so it's going to take off like a rocket, but also burn for 40 seconds at a thrust to weight ratio of 3. Now that will come down before we actually finish this, but just give that an idea to get started. And burn, it doesn't really much matter what we actually do with that. I mean, we can just basically increase the length to 2 meters, and you'll see it goes up to 1 minute 18 seconds, and the thrust to weight ratio goes down. So we may want to just manage that a little bit more carefully, and we can just actually change the texture of this to plain white for now. And that will do. And we can then also create a nose cone. And the nose cone can just be an empty tank, so you can just use that on top and then change this from a cylinder to a cone, or even a smooth cone. And then the top will just be 0. And the bottom will be whatever you've chosen. So it was like 380, was it? 380? Yep. And again, whoops. We want the plain white. Always good for rockets before they go through the atmosphere and then turn basically black. But I don't think that's in the game. I wish it was, actually. So yeah, we have what is basically a missile going straight up. And we could think about some science packages. But we have a science experiment on board here. It's just to analyze telemetry. It's nothing special. And then, of course, we've got the tiny tin booster. Now, you could just attach it to the bottom like that, but it wouldn't be very sensible. This would have to basically explode by this burning straight through it. So we want a separator, straightforward, and we have the decoupler procedural. But there is a Aerobee stack decoupler, and I'm just wondering whether that actually is going to work very well. Let's just give this a try. Now, I'm not sure whether it's actually meant to be mounted there. I assume it is. But we'll have to see. So we want the tiny tin booster to fire first. Then we want separators and this. Now, normally you do a trick like you want these two to fire together, you know, the separator and the engine. But in the case of such an early sounding rocket, you normally will do this another way. So we're going to fire them both at the same time. Because if you have a look at how long this tiny tin booster lasts, it's 0.7 seconds. Okay, so it's really just a kick stage to get you off the ground and moving really as fast as it can before it burns out, and you will not be able to time that manually with the space bar. Just trust me, you won't. So you better just combine them and then put a decoupler there and everything will just fall off. Good? Yeah, I think so. And then, of course, you do need some kind of guidance, and we won't have any control over this thing to get started. There is nothing to control it with. Really, so what we are going to need to do is just spin stabilize, which means, just as you might imagine, making it spin around its long axis. And if you go too fast, the engine doesn't really like it very much, and everything looks detached, but it still is attached. So we just have to look for some aerodynamics. So in aerodynamics, we're going to go for, well, there is an Aerobee launch fin. Interesting. I don't remember this last time, but they are cheap. So why don't we have a look at those? And there is also a nose cone. So if you want a nose cone, how heavy are you? Do you tell me? It's 800 grams, and this is even lighter. 0.00. Oh, that's tons. Okay, so yeah, that's heavier. Okay, and we can just verify that if we have a look at how much delta V. 2.664, and if we grab one of these. 2.595. It is longer and maybe look a lot more realistic, so up to you entirely, but we should be okay with this almost empty tank, essentially. You can fill this with fuel as well, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so fins, basically. Yes, we have 2, and this is the lighter one. Yep, that's the sustainer stage, and then the booster stage, so they go on the bottom, basically. So if we just increase this to 3, I'm not sure how many the Aerobee actually had originally, but then we're going to want to rotate things and then go into free rotate. You can't see it because it's just obscured by that. We're going to go into free rotate mode and just bring this in a little bit. We want very, very little rotation because this will start spinning it really very, very fast. So if we can just put a tiny, tiny amount on there, I almost want like a numerical entry. Even that may be enough. There we go. Okay, so we'll leave it like that. And you can apply these to the bottom. I'm not sure whether then they're going to be needed though, to be honest. I mean, it's going to be fine for 0.7 seconds. I suppose you could angle these a lot more and then leave these, well, not straight, but very, very close to straight. We'll give this a go anyway. We'll be able to simulate it so we can take a look at what it's like. And then we're going to just need a structure, just something to launch it from, like a generic launch clamp or something really early technology would be nice. We don't have or need something huge. Yeah. General umbilical tower. That's going to be huge, I think. Let's try this. This is probably also going to be too large. Yeah, it's far, far too large. These are all, of course, very, very cheap. Yeah, that's not going in there. Do we have like a little rail or something like that that we can attach to? How large are you? That's more reasonable. I mean, they are still huge, but yeah, what can you do? Let's go back to 2 of these, and let's just bring it down to, well, let's just lock it to a particular angle. Okay, and we're going to bring the whole thing down, of course. There we go. And then we're finally going to need to rotate the whole rocket, because although we are going to be able to spin this, if we just send it up as it is, it's 90 degrees, it's just going to go straight up, and it will continue to go straight up. And we sort of want to head it off in a direction that isn't going to come anywhere near the base coming back down. So we have to basically release at the same time, I think. We're not going to worry about releasing these afterwards because that initial booster is so incredibly powerful that we won't want to worry about that. And that looks to be mostly done, other than doing that that rotation. So I'm just gonna save this before I do that. So Aerobee, Aerobee 1, 90. Okay, just so I can save it before I do something like, you know, angled. And we'll save that as well. Just because I'm going to rotate this thing, and it's going to basically rotate the whole thing. I don't want the part, I want the whole thing. So by rotating just that root part, the whole thing gets rotated as well. And it's just a couple of degrees off. Just use the toggle snap to 1 degree, and you can sort of see a little bit of difference there. So we've got our whole rocket now. And I suppose we should look at science to see what we have available to us. Probably very, very little. There is a science package for... let me just move this out of the way. For the Aerobee science module, it allows us to log temperature and pressure data if the experiment on the vessel's under control. Well, we'll see whether it remains under control once it starts lifting off. And because we can't recover this, I don't think we're going to have any parachutes or anything. We need to basically transmit it. So yeah, let's purchase that. And I'm going to assume that that is going to need to go either on top of this. Whoops, let's take that off. Or underneath the avionics package. Well, sort of avionics package. And yeah, so let's see how well that does. So now we can have a look at the delta V, and I'll just save that again. Delta V is down to 2,492. That doesn't matter whatsoever. Thrust to weight ratio is quite high as well, so that doesn't matter either, although we could stretch this to, you know, extend this as long as we want to. But I think we should just save it there. And then I can see what I've forgotten by spending some money. Now, this is going to take 816 Kerbucks, dollars, whatever you want to call it. I think this is supposed to be like 816,000. It's supposed to have extra zeros, but you just ignore the fact there aren't any extra zeros. But let's just call it 816. And then we can look at simulation. So is simulation on here at all? Do I remember which icon sim? Sim it is. There it is. So yeah, we can start a simulation, and this will cost us money as well. So sim setup cost is 340. So if you have a look down here, even building the thing is only going to cost 816, and then it will cost 34 per minute. So this is almost like spending half of a rocket just to try a simulation. But we should try it, and let's see how badly it's gone, and see how it goes. Okay, so we're going to have no control of this whatsoever, but we should be able to stage correctly, I think, hopefully. Otherwise it might be a short trip. And let's give it a go. So we've got local control, we have no signal, not connected or anything like that. I don't think there is anything in here that we can actually really do. We can deactivate, we don't want to do that. Toggle power. Analyze telemetry and range safety. Those are the science experiments. Let's move them over there. And the same thing with this. Move them over there. And yeah, basically we can click on those to actually run the science experiments, and indeed open the covers whenever we want to. But for now, let's go. All right, there we go. And the controls are locked. We cannot do anything really or steer this thing. We do have, it seems, a good connection, even though the stock thing says not connected. I think that is more to do with remote tech than anything else. And we're burning, so we should probably think about analyzing the telemetry and logging the pressure and temperature, and we're going to have to send them back. Transmitting. That was the sound of, by the way, the Tiny Tim making a not so tiny explosion. And we're starting to wobble. That's an unfortunate part of this kind of thing. And we're going to keep on doing that. We want something more stable. We've got vapor in the feed line, so everything shuts down. So yes, we've got a wobble going on. Now, of course, these analyzed telemetry and stuff won't actually count because we're in a simulation, but that's the idea of what we want to do. And let's have a look at how much fuel. Well, we've got half of our fuel remaining. So not great, but we are going to get that science back, and we can have a look at other stuff. So we're going to end this, terminate the simulation there. Yep, we're going to go back. And we should also probably look at research of engines. Now, engines in previous versions, you just sort of were able to, let's just scroll down. You're able to have a look in here, R&D, the WAC Corporal, which is the Aerobee engine. And you'll see in here, we have the ability to research stuff. We can spend money. Oh, don't lock the window. Give me the window. There we go. So you can spend some money on researching things. And research, what it really does is stop the engine from failing. You know, saw one failure there where it was vapor in the feed lines. Well, that isn't uncommon in Realistic Progression 1. So you can choose which one of these you actually want and how much funds you want to spend on it. I'm just going to choose the good team. Okay, and that basically then lets them set up a mean time before failure, 554 seconds. If you have a look in the engine itself, however, you'll see right now we have a certain technology level, the WAC Corporal, but there are multiple tiers of engine, but they still appear under the same icon in the list. So you will move up through the tiers to get better and better engines. However, if we don't go in there for a second, go back to the engine, we can then see and take a look at how long this will last on the current tier. Let me just move that out of the way. So if I try and get this so that it actually sticks, come on. Yeah, I wish that was fixed. It probably is fixed in later versions. You'll see all these stats on the right-hand side. Ignore pretty much everything to start off with. You don't need to worry about most of it. The only thing you want to look for is how long this thing lasts. So you'll see it says rated burn time 70 seconds for one, 50 seconds for another one, and then 65 for another. We're on the WAC Corporal, so only will last 50 seconds, no matter how much fuel we put in this thing. Well, it may go beyond 50 seconds, but don't count on it. Let me put it that way. It will fail. Now, right now it's set to 1 minute 18, so we could reduce the amount of fuel in this thing, and it will go obviously faster and have different performance. I'm not going to worry about it because they're so cheap anyway. They are disposable effectively, and we don't have to worry on that side of things. So I am going ahead and build it, even though we know it's going to wobble to death and anything else. It's fine. This first one is just mainly a science vehicle. We're just going to get a little bit of science to get started. So we're going to show how the build list. We don't have anything in there right now. So we can instead, we can instead click on launch. And I believe launch will actually just say we're going to add it to the build list, which you can see here. And you'll see it's going to take 78 days to actually build. Okay, so we leave and then we need to fast forward until it's built. And that's relatively straightforward because there is a warp setting for that. Let's just wait till we get back onto the screen. Yeah, almost. There we go. So yeah, you can just click on warp to complete. Note also in this version, you are going to be spending money, of course, but also if you have a look at this window down here, it has for RP0, but it's RP1 now. Maintenance, there are costs per day, month, and year for various facilities. So per year, we're spending 2,000 of our 21,000, including astronauts. They're the major cost. But there are other costs for various different things. So, you know, facilities, integration, astronauts, tooling, training, courses, etc. We'll get to all that later. For now, just be aware that that's not a static value like in stock Kerbal. You will be depleting. So if you watch when we click on warp to complete, you'll see our money start to go down. Oh my. So off it goes. And should be completing anytime. Now once it hits complete, it will then be allowed to be rolled out. But Note that we have consumed some time here. Remember I said that the astronauts will retire? Well, just like that, so will the missions also expire if they haven't expired. Not this first mission, but other ones will. So we have an alarm time, yep, and we can delete on close and close the alarm, and then we can roll out. So that's going to take another 3 days, so we can warp to complete on that one, which will not take very long at all. In it comes. And then we should be able to launch. And we're ready for the real thing. We do not have a simulation active thing here anymore. And yeah, so we're ready to get going. And now this does count. So we do definitely want all the pressure and temperature data. I don't expect this to go any differently. I do expect it also wobble out. And you can sort of figure out how to fix that just by looking at different placement of different fins, how inclined they are and stuff like that. But at some point, if there is a slight deviation, it may well, just take over. In any case, let's get started. Off we go. And we're going to start spinning. And you'll see there's already a slight wobble there. So let's just get the pressure and temperature and the analyzed telemetry. And we're going to start transmitting it all. So off it goes. And as soon as that's done, we don't really need this rocket anymore. But if we're going to get given... I wonder if we're going to get given any records. It looks like we are. So first launch, yeah. Uncrewed altitude records. Speed records. So we want this to go as far as we want because we're going to get money for all of those things. We have a look on here. We've got 3,000 already. But we're already spinning out of control. Vapor and feed lines. And we shut down. Okay. But all our telemetry is going back. And we should have enough basic electricity. Yeah, we only use 105 units of our 180. So we're pretty much done. And I think, yeah, we've got 1.2 science. Can we actually redo these experiments? Well, we can try. And are we in a different biome or a different height? Well, we'll see. Analyze telemetry, that's not going to give us any more. Nearly done now. Okay, and that's 8 data received. So we now have 2.4 science, which is as much as we can expect from this first little rocket. We are going to want to wait until it's at maximum altitude, which it already has. And now it's going to go back down. So range safety seems appropriate. What does range safety do? Safe. Ish. Unless people want lots of different bits and pieces. Yes, if you're watching the Indian Space Agency in the last couple of weeks in real life, they decided to do this to a satellite in orbit by shooting it down with another rocket, which is a fantastically awful idea because that just makes shrapnel everywhere. And yeah, the US tried that a few years before that, and it went probably just as badly. So it's a bad idea to explode things in orbit. And it's almost getting to the point where the ISS is getting some of that shrapnel in its path. So yeah, we've got to watch out what happens with that. Anyway, off from the problems of real spaceflight and back to the Space Center. And in our Space Center, we've got a research and development, and now we've got a measly 2.4 science. But that does mean we can get to a bunch of different things. Yes. Airplanes, this is not an airplane program. We could get a rocket-powered airplane, something like the X01 or something. But yeah, let's look at other things first. And then we've got various different things. So in the rocket, post-war rocketry testing, we've got the XLR-11. We've got the A4 engine upgrade. We've not really done the A4, the RD-100. That's the Russian version, if I remember rightly. And then the Aerobee engine upgrades at the XAS are 1 config, and that takes 1 science. We can only up to do 2 of these things, remember. The Aerojet, so that's basically an upgraded booster, solid rocket booster, and separation motor. Not too concerned with that. Post-war materials, so that will probably give us a service module tank, so that's just basically more utility stuff. It has lots of stuff on board, so as you can see there, can hold satellite payload, sending rocket payload, and life support supplies. So you put that on the top of your rocket, and basically you carry different payloads because the missions are going to ask you to do that. And then down here we've got post-war avionics that has a procedural avionics booster control and batteries. So I think you know which one we have to go for, right? We have to go for the rockets. And okay, the entry cost for that one is 188th. Yeah, we might not be getting that upgrade soon. I've got 24,000. We may have to earn some more money before that. However, the technology is kind of unlocked. You'll see it's a different color. And that's because that's the Kerbal construction time thing coming in. It will take time to actually unlock this node. And you control which order they're unlocked in, but you still have to wait. And that's dependent about how many points you spend in research and development. And then we have a choice. I think I want to go for this. It has some tanks. More importantly, it has a different type of tank. And the next thing we may get is probably something like that, but we'll see. Let's take a look. So how much will this be to unlock? That's more reasonable. It's starting to get, a little bit more reasonable to get to this kind of stuff. Like 10,000. It's a lot, but that's half of the course. And this one is definitely not good. All right, so we've got two things. We've spent 2 sides, measly, but still okay. And that means we can then, we can't really do anything with that right now until they actually unlock. But if we have a look at, where are we? There we are. On the tech tree, you'll see there they are. So the first one will take 76 days. But remember these rockets, they took like 78 days. So it's not like that's much more than one more rocket. And then material science is another 76 days on top of that. So yeah, we can do all kinds of other things. So that's going to be pretty much it for this episode. We're going to get offered some more missions now and various different contracts. So we've got X-Planes contracts, signing rocket contracts, so basically launch a new vessel and then reach 45 kilometers. I'm not sure if we reach 45 kilometers. In fact, can we get, can I see the records from here? Did we get anything? Altitude record of 10 kilometers. No, we need to get a lot higher than that. Okay, so that's fine. We will take that contract at some point, but I need to be able to get a rocket that can do it, first of all. And then Carbon Line is a much higher. That's 100 kilometers. But you do get 24 grand for doing it. So if you can design something, then it's going to be pretty good. So if you've got designs for rockets in mind and you want to suggest them in the comments below, various different stacks and stuff like that, feel free to. Next episode, aside from it being a little bit dark, let's just let the light come up. There we go. Next episode, we are going to actually design a new rocket and hopefully get some of these early contracts done. But I'll leave it there for now. If you enjoyed the episode, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more RP1 content, let me know in the comments and let other people know about your playthrough. Otherwise, feel free to subscribe, share, click on the bell if you want notifications, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.